Thank you. Thank you very much for getting back in here in time and fashion. Appreciate it. We've got a guest with us today, and I'm going to let Mr. Lauder announce our guest.
All right, guys, good morning. I don't really know how I came to this, but the old coach has been out of me a little bit. When I was coaching, I was real big on outside voices. I was real big on bringing somebody else in to send a message with people. So you get sick of hearing the same people all the time, even when the message is strong or the message is good. So I said, I know just the guy. Okay, and so I called a friend of mine who's been a friend for over 20 years. He is the U of L athletics chaplain. He oversees U of L athletics in terms of their ministry work with FCA. He's on the sidelines for football games. He's a part of the staff. He's in the dugout with the baseball team. He travels with the teams. He does all that. So I called him, and we were lucky enough to get him to come in. And he's going to spend a little time with us this morning and deliver an inspirational message. So, good morning.
Hey guys, I really appreciate you allowing me to come and just kind of be part of your day today. I remember first time I was about to speak in front of a group. It was actually in a church, and I called one of my friends up, Bob Russell, and I said, "Mr. Russell, how long should I speak?" And he said, "I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to gauge yourself on what kind of speaker you think you are. 1, poor, 10, excellent." And I could tell he wanted me to grade myself right then. So I said, "Okay, I got a score." He said, "You got a score?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "Okay, subtract 2 because you're not as good as you think you are. And multiply that by 5. And that's how many minutes that you have." So with that theory, I'm going to be closing out here in just a second. Okay? True story, it was the spring of 1954. 1954, a young up-and-coming hitter by the name of Hank Aaron played for the Milwaukee Braves. The World Series, and the Milwaukee Braves were playing the New York Yankees, where they had an up-and-coming star as well, Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra was a catcher. Hank Aaron came in on this spring of 1954. He gets into the batter's box, and he digs in, and Yogi Berra was notorious for chirping and talking to batters as they got in the batter's box. So lo and behold, he held up to that name. He steps in the batter's box, and Yogi Berra says, "Hey, Hank, I heard that you can't read. Is that true?" Hank Aaron looks back at Yogi Berra. The pitcher throws the ball, strike 1. True story. Hank Aaron gets out. He kind of regroups. He starts to rethink, and he gets back in the batter's box, and he digs in, and Yogi Berra again for the second time says, "Hey, let me help you with that bat. It says Louisville Slugger." Hank Aaron looks back. The pitcher throws the ball, strike 2. He steps out again for the third time, and he comes back in. He digs in, and Yogi Berra again starts to chirp and starts to say all kinds of hateful things. But this time, Hank Aaron doesn't look back. Pitcher throws the ball. He throws it across the plate. Hank Aaron swings the bat, hits the ball, and the ball goes over the center field fence. He runs around the bases. He steps on home plate. He looks at Yogi Berra right in the face. He said, "Hey, Yogi, I didn't come here to read. I came here to hit home runs." As I share that story with you, what do you share with a group of individuals that are overworked and probably underpaid a lot? If you're that, but you're probably the most influential people in our city, our state, is because your fingerprints are going to be left on young people for the rest of their lives. Hank Aaron knew his why. I get goosebumps talking to you guys right now because I hope that you understand the why that you have. The impact that you are making. Viktor Frankl writes in a book, he says this. He said, if you know your why, you can stand on any how. If you know your why, you can stand on any how. University of Louisville, whether you're a U of L fan, UK fan, IU fan, Western Kentucky, Eastern, we have a slogan. We're sponsored by Adidas, and Adidas used to have a slogan that says, "Know your why." Then when you know your why, something happens. I think that's why men and women join armed forces. That's why men and women join teams. That's why men and women are teachers, is because they want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. Something that people will talk about forever. Abraham Lincoln walked through in church one day, He sat in the church and he listened to the sermon. He walked out, and as soon as he walked down the street, this young person came up to him. He said, "President Lincoln, how'd you like the service?" President Lincoln didn't comment. He asked again, he said, "President Lincoln, how did you like the service?" He said, "I was deeply disturbed." Guy was thrown back. He said, "What do you mean? I thought people go to church or synagogue or this or that, and they come out and they're encouraged." He said, because the person never challenged us to be great. He just kind of challenged us to be average. Man, I'm convinced with all my heart that we have been created to be great where we're at. And that when we know our why, we have certain things. I'm just going to give you really 3 quick points. It'll be really, really simple. Close it out, and I'm sure y'all are excited about the rest of your meetings today. When you know your why, you have certain things. Here's what you have: is you have passion. You have incredible passion. Passion is it's contagious. It kind of spreads through the hallways like chickenpox. Passion. I heard a phrase one time, it's put it like this: whatever you do, do it with all of your heart. Whatever you do, do it with all of your heart. There's something about passion. You see, passion, John Maxwell says this: passion will pull us up when adversity hits. Man, I'm talking to a room full of people here today, and I'm sure that there's all kinds of adversity that has happened in people's lives, just in this room. So what do you think happens when we get a school full of young people from all different backgrounds, from all different cultures, from all different things? They come here with issues. Passion. Passion will pull us up from adversity. I heard somebody say this one time, that it's one of 3 things. You're about to go into a storm, you're in a storm, or you just came out of one. It's adversity. Passion will pull us up when adversity hits. I'll tell you another thing that passion will do. Passion will push us out of our comfort zone. Phrase one time says, "All things, if given enough time, take the risk of being taken for granted." All things, if given enough time, take the risk of being taken for granted. There's people in this room that this is your first year teaching. There's some people in this room that's been teaching for 20, 30, maybe 40 years. But you've made a lifestyle out of this. I want to challenge you never to become complacent. Never just kind of punch the clock, because there are young individuals that are looking to you. They will remember you for the rest of their lives. Whether it's a PE teacher, whether it's a librarian, whether it's a custodian, whether it's a math or algebra, whether it's English, whatever it may be, there are young people that will remember you for the rest of your life. And they will not just remember the subject. They'll remember how you made them feel. They will remember the passion and excitement that you brought into the classroom. That you made algebra exciting. That you made English exciting. That you made being a librarian exciting. Passion will pull us up. Passion will push us out of our comfort zone. And passion will always set us up to be remembered. John Maxwell says. To be remembered forever. Passion. The second thing that knowing our why will do is give us purpose. It will give us an incredible purpose. Rick Warren, in his book, Purpose Driven Life, says this. He says, the worst thing in life is not death. The worst thing in life is living life without a purpose. And I really believe that you guys have been picked, strategically picked, however you want to place it, to be here at this school. Purpose. Knowing that you have been here, called here for a reason, is an incredible purpose. James Braddock, you may not have remember that name right off the top, but I bet you probably have seen or heard of the movie. James Braddock was just an average boxer. But he was boxing at a time where money was it's a depression era. And James Braddock comes home one day. And when he comes home, his wife is there, but his kids are no longer in the house. So he frantically looks around for his kids, and he can't find his kids, and he comes to the wife, and he says, where's our children? He said, James, we can't afford to have our kids here. So I sent them to my mother's house in Chicago. James Braddock starts to train a lot harder now. And what he goes from being an average fighter to winning the heavyweight championship of the world. And they stick a microphone in his face and said, James, what changed? What changed from being an average fighter to now the champion of the world? And he said, because now I know why I'm fighting. Fighting for food. Now, lo and behold, you're probably not, well, yeah, you are. I guess you are working for food. But when we know our why, we have passion, we have incredible purpose. Here's the last thing I want to share with you before I leave. We know our why is passion. We know our purpose. And the third thing is it's a promise. If you're like me, I like all words at the same time. So you'll remember. Promise. This is not a crossing of the fingers. This is not a lucky rabbit's foot. But I'll make you a promise. If you're passionate about your job, I promise you things will happen this year for you that you never thought of. That from the beginning to end, if you're passionate about your job, there's going to be promises that these kids will grow up and they'll always look to you. You know, there's a saying that there's power of life and death in the tongue. There's power in that. That with my wife, I can build her up with my words, or I can tear her down with my words. And I think the promise is this. That if we use power, life, or death as in the tongue with our students, that if we look at them as human beings, that we don't look at them from a kid from Lake Forest, or a kid from Middletown, or a kid from Butchertown, or from a kid from Victory Park, or a kid from wherever they may be. I promise you, if we see a kid and we pour our lives into them, I'll make you a promise. This kid will remember you forever because we remember the words that you said. I'm gonna give you a true story. A guy by the name of Mark Madison. This is the opposite end. Started building up. Let me tell you about tearing down, but this young kid turned it into a great, great story. 4th grade, a guy by the name of Mark Madison goes into his class, and the teacher makes an assignment. Tonight I want you to go home and I want you to dream. I just want you to write a paper on your dreams. And young Mark Madison went home and he started to write this story on this paper. And in this story, he wanted to live in a 4,000 square foot home. He wanted to live in a 2,000 acre horse farm. He dreamed about what that's going to look like, and he wrote it down on paper. The next day, he goes to school and he turns it in to his teacher, and the teacher grades it. And later on that day, she returns the papers, and Mark Madison gets his paper and he sees it and says, F, see me after class. True story. Mark Madison goes up to the teacher, and the teacher says, hey, Mark, I tell you what. I read your paper, I read your dream, and Mark, I don't want to set you up for failure. Okay, I want you to set smart goals. I want you to set realistic goals. I want you to, a person where you live on the other side of the track, Mark, you'll never be able to do this. So I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to go home and I want you to rewrite your paper. So Mark Madison in 4th grade, and he goes and he starts to rewrite this paper. And he puts his pen down or pencil down, and he goes to bed, he wakes up the next morning. He walks into the school, he walks into the classroom, no one's around, he gives the teacher the paper, and the teacher looks and says, Mark, this is the same paper. And very respectfully, this 4th grader looks at his teacher and says, yes, ma'am, you can keep your F and I will keep my dream. It's a true story. Now, I'll tell you this. That would be a fantastic story if the story stopped, but young Mark Madison grows up. And now Mark Madison lives in a 4,000 square foot home. He lives on a 2,000 acre horse farm. And over top of his mantle, he has something in a frame. And you know what it is. It's a story. It's an F. It's a promise. That is a promise that each one of these young men and women whatever backgrounds, whatever religions, whatever, anything that anyone has that's coming into the school, I challenge you to have passion, to have purpose, and give these young people promise that you're a team. And when they understand that you are on their team, that you have their best, man, great things happen. I love stories if you haven't already known. I'm going to close with this one, okay? There's a guy by the name of Dick and Judy Hoyt. Dick and Judy Hoyt, probably just like a lot of us, had a dream of having a family, the perfect family, that everything's going to go great. Dick and Judy Hoyt have this son named Rick. And Rick is born with a lot of severe issues. Cerebral palsy, a lot of different issues going on in Rick. So when he's born, the doctors say, hey, your son is probably going to be a vegetable for the rest of his life. I would really think about sending him to an institution because he's never going to amount to what you want. Dick and Judy Hoyt didn't know what to do. So what they did is they went back home, they started thinking about it, said, no, we're going to raise this son that he is wonderfully and perfectly made. And they raise him up. At the age of 11, they go to a institution, a schooling, and they teach this boy, Rick Hoyt, how to communicate by using just one finger, just clicking a mouse, and it will come across the screen. It's a game changer for the Hoyt family because now their son can communicate. So the first thing they do is they leave the institution and they go to a track meet. And they're just watching, they're spectators. And then Dick hears something come across the communication board. And it's Rick. And he says, Dad, I want to do that. Oh my gosh. I mean, the son is being pushed around, but what do you think the dad thinks? The dad thinks, I gotta do something. I gotta see how I can make this young man achieve and go where he wants to go. So Dick Hoyt, when he got this little communication through this communicating board, he's an 80-pound overweight couch potato is what he would tell you. So how am I going to get my son to do track meets? So Dick Hoyt starts to train. It's not about Ricky. He starts to change some of his habits. He starts to do some of his things. And now Dick and Rick Hoyt, they're a great team. Rick wanted to just run a track meet. Let me tell you what Dick and Rick Hoyt have now done together. They've done 86 marathons together. Now what that means is Dick is pulling his son Rick. So he's pulling him. 86 marathons. They've done 8 Ironmen together. They have biked across the United States together. They asked Dick Hoyt, why you do it? Dick Hoyt says this, because he needs me and I need him. And we're a good team together. Man, when we realize we need these young people just as much as they need us, we're going to have some fantastic things going on. I applaud what you do before you've even started. Thank you for pouring yourself into these young men and women. And if I can ever be any help to you guys, please let me know. Thank you guys so much.